Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Laughlin. We're on the corner Bookstore today on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and I'm honored to have Charles Breakfield and Rox Burkey. They've been on the show here more than a couple times over the years, and they're dual-handedly responsible for the Enigma series. So why don't we bring on our guests? I know Charles was backstage a moment ago. There he is. Charles, did Rox make it, or is she still en route?
I think she's en route. So let's not hold it up. I can make up stuff just as easily as she can. So
Okay,
happy to talk.
Know what we're doing then.
Yeah.
I noticed as I was going through there, you sell your books individually as ebooks, audiobooks, paperbacks, but you also sell them in a bundle as a group of books. Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah. Sometimes it's just easier to just snag all of them at once, and we wanted so for somebody who's like, hey, I got to have all of them at once, because I don't want to have to stop and wait for the order something and have it shipped in or download it. So just trying to make it easy and frictionless for people to consume our entertainment.
It seems like sometimes when I want an author, all of his books, I go there and then this one comes from Cincinnati. This one here comes from some other place that there were leftovers. I have no idea, but sometimes it's not just as simple as just get them all at one time. But anyway, when you do that option, is that a difficult option for authors to consider when you have more than half a dozen to a dozen books?
For shipping, I'm real fussy about my shipping. I like to make sure that they arrive as nicely as they were sent. So having done that in my youth, trying to get the packaging correct for everything.
Is that something you do yourself? You pack them and ship them out?
You bet. That's
Okay.
exactly what I do, so that they don't get scuffed, they don't get mangled or torn, so that when they get there, people can say, "Wow, this is great."
Okay, so you have a small inventory and a box or whatever that they go in, and then when you get an order for that, you process that yourself. You make sure everything is pristine, and you take care of all the logistics involved with that order. And thank you very much. End of story.
Well, and we like to put a nice personalized note that says, "Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to ship these directly to you." We put a nice autograph on the inside, and uh, you know, uh, offer to have them stop by often, because we're always cranking out something new.
Mhm. Hi, Rox. How are you doing?
Hmm.
As soon as her audio comes up and she's available. But since I still have Charles on here, marketing. I was fortunate enough last night to sell about a dozen books at a book signing at a local event. And how many book events do you do signings? Because I know prior to COVID, that seemed to be a fairly common thing. Is that something that's coming back in your world?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, we did a library in one of the mid cities here outside of Dallas, or in between Dallas and Fort Worth, I should say. Um, and it was very gratifying to be able to sell a full set of the 12 books in the series to a nice young lady that said that she wanted to surprise her husband, who's also in the tech world, and loves those kind of thriller books. So um, I was about ready to walk out the door, and she said, "Please, please, please." And I said, "Well, gosh, yeah, I'll cut you a deal, and I'll autograph all of them for you." So we had a good 25 minutes. I didn't realize, how troublesome my name is to try to write out, 12 times. But yeah, hey, you know, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, and so long as they pay, that's worth your time, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
What have you
Oh, good.
seen from a success and failure perspective with regard to marketing your books? Are there some things that absolutely don't work very well that may have worked in the past, but because of things changing, that you've now gone to a different marketing ploy, so to speak?
Um, Marketing is somewhat fickle. I mean, it's because as soon as you hit on a successful formula, everybody wants to know, what are you doing? And next thing you know, you're standing at a bus stop with gobs of other people trying to fight on the same bus, and it's like, okay, well, that one's kind of overused. Let's oversubscribed, that for that particular theory. So um, it's important to see what everybody else is doing, and then, does it work for you? The high priced, high ticket ads. I don't think I've ever seen those work. I mean, anything over $50 is like, you sure? You really sure we want to do this? Because, it's money that's going to go out the door, and you can't judge it. They don't show up. It's a stream of information that people are getting bombarded by, and so the cost structure is always a big discussion point for Rox and myself.
Miss Rox, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Red. How are you? Sorry,
Exceptionally
I
well,
joined
as always.
I'm sorry I joined just a little bit late. But I think, to kind of go back to your question, some of the things that used to work was, Twitter used to be a very good resource for authors. I think that they've locked some things down. It's not quite as beneficial from a social media platform. And like Charles was mentioning earlier, I still think the face-to-face is the best. If we can get more people out, I think that we can all give our message better.
But you take advantage of the live streaming TV we have here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. I'm sure you're on podcast on a fairly regular basis too, either together or individually.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have email lists and other things that are common within the genre of being an author and marketing your book. Is there anything that absolutely doesn't work that you used to depend on?
I do think that the email lists are not as beneficial as they once were. I think that people are tired of getting a lot of email, and I think the timing has to be exquisite for it to work. And that doesn't mean you can always send it on the 1st of the month or the 5th, or that's the most fickle. But you're right,
Yeah.
streaming like what we're doing with you, it's still a hot ticket item. It's awesome to be part of this.
I had a
Absolutely.
conversation today with an author that he's trying to figure out what makes the most sense to get his, I guess, what he's really interested in is monetizing his books and whatever. And so we had a nice lunch, talked about various things. And so I figured, yeah, that's kind of a topic I really need to address. And as I was walking around the room last night, there was probably a dozen and a half other authors there. And some of them seem to have, like you have about 35 books there behind you, it seems like. But I guess we have about 15 books on the Enigma series.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so when you have a lot of books, then that kind of indicates that you have a lot of success. It kind of indicates that there's room for expansion. So when you wrote the first Enigma book, did you envision having 15 or 25 of them down the road?
Well, let me jump in here on that one, Red, because what happened was when we started the series, I kept saying trilogy, and I kept getting smacked upside the head, saying no, we're not going to stop at 3. We're going to stop when it makes sense to stop. And so we just, what happened was that in the tech world, all of these cyber threats, they come at us on a conveyor belt. There's always something that's coming down the pike that's, oh man, here's another technique that the cyber bad guys are using to be able to exploit the rest of us. And this might make a pretty good theme for a book. And so that's where the numbers just kept keep adding more books to the series, and we got to book 12, and Rock said, let's take a pause and then start a new series. So we did.
One of the questions I asked a lot of people yesterday was about AI. Do they use it at all? We had an author on here last week. She's eschews, absolutely does not want anything to do with AI. So she's writing 52 books a year, one a week. They're not long books, but she's going to publish 52 books here during 2024 and never even turn on the AI button. But with Enigma, with the kinds of things you're talking about in there, it seems like to me that might be an easy source of value to creating characters, locations, whatever it may happen to be with regard to your plots.
That's an interesting way that you approach it. It's funny because being that we're both technologists, we actually probably stay away from AI for the most part because we really want our creativity to be front and center. Now there are times when I am doing reviews, for example, that I might use an AI element, but not in the books. I may use it for some of the content for social media. But again, not in the books because, we feel that we have enough knowledge of technology and what we're delivering that we don't need that AI portion. And we're proud to do it ourselves.
One of the things I've helped a couple of my authors with was the fact that I can take a chapter, put it into AI and say, give me 5 different chapter headings, 3 words or less. 8th grade level. And so it gives me the ability to cut and paste and choose things that go in there. Then I take the table of contents, put it into AI and say, write me a Amazon description from my book, 500 words, whatever, 50 words. And so it gives me the ability to use that. Now, I did it most recently. Guy had written 5 generations, true story, pretty much true based on his great grandfathers and stuff. And he wanted a picture of this part of Texas with the windmill and this and that. And so I did a real quick, I had AI create 3 different covers, and I showed actually 5 different covers. And he picked 3 of them. I sent those 3 to a designer, and I said, this is what my client wants. Make something like this. And they came back and, okay, move the windmill a little bit, whatever it may happen to be. But but I find it clarifies a lot of stuff for me when I'm working with my clients, even though I'm not using it to create the book per se. I'm using it to tweak the book in some areas. Does that make sense?
And I can see value in doing that, Red. And I do like the image create. Now I have seen that a couple of times being done. My concern about image create is whether or not the AI is pulling it from some image that's out there and an artist is not getting the credit for it. That kind of worries me in the back of my mind, but it's a fun tool to say something like, I do a picture where I'm in a balloon and I can see the world below me and it's in the middle of, the amber waves of grain. And, it will create a very impressive kind of picture. And so I like that. The idea of using it for a cover, I hadn't considered that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've seen where people have used it as starters, if you will, to try to let me help jumpstart the creative process, and they take that beginning piece and go, oh,
yeah,
I have an idea, and so there's some value from that standpoint. It's a little. I'm a little bit hesitant to use it because it's seductive. I can do this and I can cut some time off. And let me. And before I know it, I'm saying, here, would you write me this book, and then I'll come back tomorrow. I don't want to be guilty of that.
Most of the people I work with are one shot only. They want their book. This is it. Thank you very much. And that's kind of most of the 90% of my clients are in that one book, and they don't have that creative juice. They know kind of what they want, and so when you put something in front of them, say A, B, or C, they say, I really like B part. I like the C. Okay, fine. I'll tell the designer. We'll put the two of them together, and get you something. So from that perspective, I think it helps me with my time management of being able to get this thing done. Generally speaking, so I was just kind of curious, since you all have a whole bunch of books, is that something that you've ever used? And the answer is no. Something you probably will use? The answer is no. But there might be some tweaks that may be beneficial depending on what that uniqueness of AI are. And the AI has changed so much; it's unbelievable. I was talking to a potential client for one of my other shows here on USA Global TV and Radio Network, and he sent me 40 pictures of me in space outfits, and I'm flying the FA-18. It's interesting because of the level of AI to put you in there, and because you're paying for this service, there's that thing that Roxanne, I think we've talked about in the past, with regard to, is the person who had the original intellectual property being shunned or not being recognized. But a lot of these things are in the public domain. A lot of them have been around for a while. And if you say, I want an influence of this particular artist that may have shades or black and white or grays and sunshine, whatever, get that kind of feeling, but not necessarily stealing from that particular author or creator. So I think there's a lot to be said. It's a matter of, the biggest problem I have is, how do you talk to it? Because you just can't say, edit my book, because I'll take 100 pages down to 2 pages. It really means summarize. And so
we got burned early on by a reviewer that said, I'll get your review done in 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, and it's going to cost you, it was very modest. We get the review back, and it came back ahead of time. I'm like, wow, these people really know how to crank this stuff out. And I always read everything when I get back from somebody, particularly if this was a new contact, and it was obvious that they had turned loose an AI engine and said, vacuum up everything that you can find on Breakfield Burkey, the Enigma series, and stuff it into a review, and give me a review for this new book. And they completely missed the characters' names. They completely got the theme wrong on the book. And this was with we'd sent the synopsis with it. You could have at least had fed the synopsis in and got the names correct. So we challenged them. They went, my bad. Here, we'll give you your money back, and we're sorry. So it was a very distasteful confrontation, because it was, we were expecting honest output when we had done the effort to be able to put together a new book, looking for reviews to be able to convince people that, hey, our stuff is swell, and then have that cheap shot at us from somebody who used AI to be able to do a side hustle was real discouraging. So it's hard for me to get excited about using something like that when it all I get to see is the abuse. I guess is probably the way to be able to categorize it.
When it became in vogue, and we talked about one of the local author meetings here in Houston, the key thing was, yeah, it's a tool, but in and of itself, you don't use a single tool and depend on it. Because if you do, you're going to get burned, because it's not necessarily the best tool to be using for whatever you have. And so we talked about the intellectual property. We talked about, yeah, this may be too bleached out, too dehumanized. And just because it says it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. We've had a number of lawyers at some of my meetings, networking groups. They end up in front of a judge, and they did their AI review, and all of a sudden the AI picks out some cases that have absolutely no, anyway, they got burned in front of the judge. So anyway, you use something, know its limitations, know how to talk to it. That being said, you'd mentioned the pricing was right for a review. When you launch a book, is it pretty much the same price every time you launch, or does it depend on other factors?
For a paperback, it will depend a lot on the page count. So that, there's a certain amount that we want to make sure that we get the value back on the cost that it takes to produce the book. And of course, with paper costs going up and printing costs not necessarily as widespread as they have previously been, that can change. The ebooks were fairly consistent with, though in some cases those are rising as well because of the market. But no, for us, it's pretty consistent. We have the novella size, we have the cozy mystery size, and then we have the series itself, and those are a lot bulkier.
Yeah. The other thing about pricing, having been in the wholesale book distribution business in my youth, what's important about that is that you need a price point that's retail. People are going to be able to say, okay, that got the right heft to it, and I'll go along with it. But if you're going to sell to a major chain like Barnes and Noble or any of the independents, they have to have a discount of 40 points to be able to get it. So if you price it too low and the discount that you're going to offer is unattractive to a book buyer, you're not going to get the bulk sales that you imagined. So it's very much a art and science, trying to be able to price it so that the wholesale discount is attractive enough for people to say, okay, I can make margin on this, because they got to make a profit on it, and the retail price isn't so high that it's hey, you're out of the marketplace, Charles. So we have to be careful of that as well.
Interesting. I noticed a book last night had almost 900 pages in it, and it had to be about 11 font. And I was telling the author, I said, why didn't you make this thing 3 different books? And for whatever reason, it disconnected. Yeah, no, it all has to be in there. And I'm saying, anyway, just sometimes you sit there and you see something, and this is an obvious solution, but there's no, I'm proud of what I did. I don't want to change anything. Okay, I understand. But if you had 3 different books, you could have different prices on them. People not necessarily interested. Anyway, there's a lot of things when that book is done that it's on my baby. I don't want to change anything.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that situation where somebody says something, and you say, "Yeah, I probably wish I would have changed that," or I would maybe the next book I'll think about it. So when you get feedback from your readers, how does that get played into the future of your next series or next book or two?
You know, we try and take constructive criticism and roll with it as appropriate. There have been times when we have gotten some less than constructive criticism, which is somebody really trying to, you know, jab you just to be mean. And those get to me personally. But I realize that you can't always make everyone happy. I had one comment from somebody who, you know, our books are on Audible, and I had a comment from an individual, and they said they just didn't like the sound of the voice. So they never listened to the story, but we got drubbed because they didn't like the sound of the voice, which is interesting because they could have, you know, actually gotten a sample before they got it. But hey, what can I say?
A lot of individual issues with regard to listening. Characters. Do you have any I'll be quite honest, I have not read all your books, but do you have any characters that are totally throughout every single one of your books? And do you have characters that come in and go out, or as character development? How do you decide when you need a new character and when you can let those characters float in the background for a while?
So the Enigma series itself, the one behind us right now, that has cyber good guys. So there is a group of individual characters in there that do repeat from one book to another, and they also evolve. So they you know, they grow older, they have relationships, they meet new people, they do things they wish they hadn't done, they learn from their mistakes. Then there's the cyber bad guys, which is, it's my favorite part because we can kill them and we won't go to jail. But you know, they come in. Sometimes they stick around for a while. Sometimes we actually have a couple that get reformed and end up, you know, becoming the good guys, which is hard to believe. But you know, people do make mistakes. And you know, early on in the series, Charles used to approach everybody and say, "Well, would you like to be the evil person in our next book?" And you know, and take a resume for it. So it's fun. It's fun to have lots of characters. We try to narrow down per story to make it easier for people to understand. So I hope that answers that.
Locations. Have you been to all the locations when you're writing these things, or you have the ability to view documentaries so you know what these things look like? But how do you handle locations, particularly when you may not have been to Poland and there's things in there that are critical for the book?
Well, we've each done a lot of travel, professionally as well as personally. So a lot of it's easy to be able to pull off on location information when you've been there. You can see with your own eyes, you know, that you know, for instance, that on your the video you guys load up on when your global TV comes on, and you got the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, or at least was, you know, there in Dubai. Having seen that, and it's those are good memories because it's easier to write with, and then a little bit of research for some of the areas that you know. I lived in Germany for 3 years, and so we got to travel all around and see a lot of stuff. We didn't see everything, but you get a flavor for what it could be like, and with a little extra detailed research, you can make the story seem as close to realistic as possible. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. We're pretty fussy about our details because as technologists, we like to make sure that it's technically correct, because that's the information that props up the fiction thriller of each of the books.
I was having lunch with an author down in Key West, and we were talking about locations, and he was because he had a detective out of Key West that was in the Keys back and forth, and he was very explicit about when he walks out on the street, what does he see? and how are the people dressed, and what are the commonalities of expressions and things like that. And he said he would spend sometimes 2-3 days in a location just listening and watching, so that when he would make notes, so that when he actually got to okay, the guy came out of this bar at 2 o'clock in the morning, what was really there, in order to be able to try to put somebody reading it in that same location. And I thought that was kind of a neat way of character and location development.
Yeah.
What part of
Well,
Germany?
Charles just got back. Oh, sorry.
Let's finish up. What part of Germany were you in?
We started off in Stuttgart, and then moved up to Frankfurt and spent most of my dad's tour in there at Frankfurt.
I spent last 2.5 years in Stuttgart in the 90s. Last 98, 99, basically. So anyway, just curious is all. And then Rox, you said Charles was doing something or getting ready to do something or visited someplace or something.
Well, Charles just got back from doing some research on the East Coast. And so a lot of that research he's captured notes on, and that will make its way into one of the stories. It may not be the next one, but it will make its way into the stories. But we do travel a lot, and different places. So it's easy to incorporate other areas, and we have an appreciation for different places. I certainly personally would like to see more places, but that's just me.
Now, do you take notes, or do you also take videos of areas so that you have something that's a little bit more clear of what you're actually seeing?
Well, I mean, pictures. I mean, I went to the Air Museum there in outside of gosh, where was it? Virginia Beach. They had a whole bunch of swell aircraft. I mean, stuff that I've read about. They had a whole hangar full of World War I planes. It was very cool. They had an Albatross, and I'm like, wow, that's then some fun Fokkers and Vickers. The standard biplanes from the British Air Force. And then over on the World War II side, which is the area that I went gaga over them, and they had all kinds of neat stuff, including something I'd never seen before, which was 3 Red Army planes that they had brought back from that era. And the guy was a maniac, a collector, and he had all the good stuff, P-51s. He didn't have all the aircraft that I'd like to have seen, but I was still, just I packed that that digital camera full of photos to be able to relate to when I have a little bit of time to digest them.
It's interesting because when you look at warfare today, say in the Ukraine, a lot of it's being done by drones. In fact, I think I just read last week the first AI drone was used in combat. And so you're looking at a museum 10, 15 years from now that's going to have shells with small drones and big drones and everything else, because those were what we used in actual battle. And it's interesting how that technology evolves. The planes I used to fly in no longer exist. Well, they do, but they're no longer in operation in the United States. And and technology with your publishing, you have a cell phone here that can do so many things that 10 years ago you couldn't even think about doing. What do you find to be the best technology helper for you for your writing?
Standard
That's
PC.
Our computers. Yeah. I mean, we do everything on our computers. And we share files because we're in 2 different locations. We do have conversations about where the story is going to go and what we want to do with it. But everything else is trapped digitally for us. Thank goodness we don't have to use typewriter and correct tape. Oh my gosh, that would be so miserable. But one of the things about the Enigma series, we started off with using a group of people that escaped Poland in World War II. And because Charles is such a World War II expert, I mean, he has read more books on World War II than most professors have that teach the subject. And so, we have a lot of things in there. And of course, the Enigma machine, which was critical in that particular conflict, is certainly part of the everyday computer today. So we have a lot of faith in our computers.
And what happens when the lights go out?
And the batteries run out. Yeah, that's a good one. That's when your AI stuff is no good. It's like, okay, you got your big chief tablet and your crayon, and you want to write. That's the only way you're going to be able to write when you're out of power. My daughter was grousing about she's was taking care of the house for us. She goes, I had to come over to your house, Dad, because I ran out of electricity. I didn't have electricity at my house, and you know how many things have to be charged? I said, yeah, all of them. And she was, grousing about, not being, I couldn't use my phone, and I thought she was going to weep there for a minute. And I went, oh, good grief. When you can't, that's why that's the part that I'm suspicious about, the AI that's, that does this and it'll do that for you. And when you can't do that for yourself, and you no longer have the ability to find out or to understand if the answer being fed back to you is a hallucination on the AI portion or not. That's the scary part, when you've lost that the ability to be able to say, no, that was right. What I told you was right. What you gave me back was wrong. When you can't do that, that's where the inflection point. And in our we covered the AI wars in book 11 and 12, where we talk about what happens when the AI engines start to think.
You've been on a number of podcasts and a number of other shows, and we're getting to the end of this one. Sometimes you get to the end of the show, I wish I would have had a chance to talk about this. What have you had the opportunity after the show is over? You say, oh my goodness, I wish I had said this. Is there something that you have now the opportunity to say, we've never talked about this before, but I'd like to be able to say right now, what could possibly be in that sense?
That is a great question. I'm not sure that I have a great answer to accompany it. I think part of it is, we like talking to audiences. We like hearing from audiences, and that's kind of the running theme. We hope that your listeners will, visit our website. They will feel free to connect with us, to write us an email, to tell us things about our stories that they like, maybe some things they'd like us to change, or maybe some direction they'd like us to go. And we really welcome that input. It's amazing to me how reticent some people are to connect. But I think the people-to-people connection is what makes authors be inspired to do something even better. So shows like yours, Red, are just fabulous to be a part of. So thank you for that. Charles, I'm sure you've thought of something wonderful.
Red, I'd alert people to the fact that we do multiple media approaches. The book trailers. I'm particularly pleased with what we're getting out of from our genius on the West Coast. He's been cranking out some tremendous stuff, and he's got intoxicated by some of the storylines, and he's come up with some fantastic videos. I mean, 60 seconds. You can have a complete visual interpretation of what that book is going to be like, and help set the stage for it. So I would encourage people to take a look at the videos for each of the books, because it will help craft an image in your mind of here's what I'm going to be bathed in when I open this book.
Okay, I was just on your website there, and that's the book teasers. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, book teasers, book trailers. They're all hosted on YouTube, so you got to get a good clear image. I've got 3 new ones I need to load up here in the next couple of days to be able to extend that. And then And then for those people that that can't take the time to read, gee, look at those listen to those snippets of our voice actor that has become the voice of Enigma series. He's working on our newest book, the Enigma Forced, and that's the one we just released the last 2 weeks ago. Really pleased with the way that story has come out. It's going to be a you go down a little bit there, red. There it is, Enigma Forced. We're already getting some reviews, people saying, wow, what a gutsy book, and hard to put down. And then there's the video to go along with it to kind of help set the stage for the evil bad guy, Mateo. He's all business, and he doesn't care what he's selling. We think we've hit on a very good character, and you'll have to consume the book to find out what exactly happens and what is he brokering.
The other thing I want to mention too, since you've given us this opportunity, Red, is that if there are book clubs that are listening to the show, we do love getting with book clubs. If there's a group that want to use one of our books as one of their discussions, we'll offer a special deal for them. And, if at all possible, we'll come visit with them if that's what they would like to do, or we can certainly do like a meeting with them.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, so how do people get in touch with you? How do they buy your books?
Well, the easy way to do is to go out to the enigmaseries.com, and it'll direct you to either if you like if your format, if you like hard copy, if you want ebook, or you want Audible. We get links to be able to take you wherever you need to go. It's on Amazon. They're all on Amazon. They're also in Barnes & Noble. So the enigmaseries.com is the starting place for all things fiction, fact, and fun.
If you want to email, it's authors@enigmaseries.com.
For our audio audience that may not understand exactly what we're saying, Enigma, ENIGMA, Enigma Series, SERIES.com. So Enigma, ENIGMA Series, SERIES.com. And Rox, Charles, thank you so very, very much. Appreciate your time today. And I'm actually giving some very serious thought to having some Christmas books delivered early this year. So I have to follow up on that.
We'll ship from our website. No shipping charge from our website, but we'll sign them for you.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. That gets one of the things is, what does it take to make a good fisherman, a successful fisherman? It's not the lure, it's not the bait, it's not the boat. You need hungry fish.
That's it.
So you're making me hungry and hungry and hungry. And I'm thinking I'm at that point in time where I need to take a bite or two. So anyway, thanks so very much. I really and truly enjoyed our time today.
Red, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Look forward to our next time. This is red.olaughlin again, and this has been the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. We're on every week of the month, so 4 times, 5 times, depending on the months. But please join us. We have some great authors and get a chance to learn insides and intimate details of things that most of the time we just don't know, but they're really neat to know. So that being said, I'm going to be coming up here in about 16 minutes or so on The Wise Ones. I have a great guest today. She was in traditional medicine for a while and then moved over to holistic and have a lot of success with the cannabinoids and being able for various treatments. So get a chance to look at that. And then I'm almost wrapping up my Talking Head series. That would be an hour and 16 minutes on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, doing a deep dive into nutrition and probably looking at next week being the last one of that particular series. So with that being said, I'm going to bid you all adieu and say take care and catch you all next week. Bye now.